Democrats or Republicans? Communism or extinction? NATO or Russia? Internationalism or extinction? Capitalism or socialism? Socialism or extinction? Biden or Trump? A working class revolution? Musk or Zuck? A world without billionaires? Paper or plastic? There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. Eco-friendly products, eco-conscious consumers. Not believing that structural problems can be solved by individual consumer habits. It's a rat race, baby. I'm staying on my grind, clocking those gains, and clawing my way up to the top. Evolving out of the primordial shell of a society based on greed, exploitation, and ruthless competition. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Survival of the fittest. To each according to their need, from each according to their ability. Socialism just means everyone gets the same. What part of to each according to their ability do you not understand? The system is broken and must be fixed. The system is working exactly as it was intended and must be destroyed. Well, that's dangerous. Perhaps the most dangerous idea in all of political economy is that capitalism can be reformed so that it serves the interests of the masses rather than the rich. We just need to insert some morals into capitalism. Capitalism is a system which divides society into two separate classes, owners and workers. As long as there's an economy which incentivizes greed and sociopathy and puts profits over people, we will continue to have war and poverty. Well, I think that there's a secret third way. And what is that? Nuh-uh. No, seriously, what is it? The lesser of two evils. So, fascism. Well, what do you propose? The only possible thing that can fix this. Which is? Unite the working class. Seize power over capitalists. A working class revolution. Here in America, democracy is freedom. Democracy is America's oldest spectator sport. We participate, we vote, we consume, we ratify. Ratify? What do you mean ratify? We validate and give our consent to decisions already made by the business class. Business class? What do you mean business class? Multi-billion-dollar transnational stateless corporations and their class of owners, managers, and bankers and executives which have bought the politicians who enact public policy. No, we voted those politicians in. I watched it happen. We voted in a candidate out of a pool of candidates whom corporations deemed acceptable to fund. That sounds like a conspiracy. Are you a conspiracy theorist? If it is a conspiracy to think that elections are bought and sold and that corporate lobbyists fund donations to the candidates who they think will serve their corporate interests, then yes, it is a conspiracy. To think that powerful men get together to discuss and make decisions about what to do with the enormous amount of resources they have at their disposal is a fact of society. It is a fact of life. This is a simple concept that a 5-year-old can understand. Capitalism is the best. We live to serve corporations. Capitalism might have a few problems, but we can reform it. Capitalism must be abolished. There is no justification for the system. Believing that capitalism can be reformed is the same as being pro-capitalist. Both are wrong. We are openly fascist, both rhetorically and with our policy making. We are neutral. Being neutral to fascism is the same as siding with fascism. The two are materially the same thing. Fascism requires a weak foil to strong arm into submission. Fascism and its liberal enabler must be abolished. Climate change is not real, and we're not going to do shit about it. Climate change is real, but we're not going to do anything about it. Despite knowing that just 100 corporations account for 71% of global emissions, we're going to push the narrative that individual consumers are to blame for structural problems. And we're going to insist that we all police our own consumer habits so that we start using paper straws and saving plastic bags and cutting up our six-pack rings so the dolphins don't choke to fucking death. It doesn't matter that the rhetoric is different if the policies are identical. I'm not responding to your first point or your second point. but a secret third point that I pretended you said. I'm not left and I'm not right, okay? I'm a secret third Reich. Yeah, but that's not capitalism. That's corporatistical cronyism. Duh. I see both sides. You people are all, it's my way or the highway. Newsflash, life is not so binary. We can take a little good from each thing. What's wrong with having a little fascism with our socialism? Get the best of both worlds. Oh my god, did you just say Russia's not as powerful as the United States? Tanky? Sure, I can acknowledge as a performative gesture that the US has done some bad things, but let's not forget the real tyranny of evil, Russia. I think you mean conservative because I'm a liberal and I don't say those things. I just tacitly and uncritically support them. Yeah, but... Well, actually... But... Capitalism's not that bad. We just gotta weed out the corruption and the bad apples is all.
All these similarities. You don't need to find the Democratic Party sufficient. I certainly don't most of the time. But even if you were to take that graph at face value, which you definitely shouldn't, when you're making your third party, I wouldn't start by minimizing abortion rights. Might be a bad look.
This is a typical milquetoast liberal response from someone who has absolutely no desire to see any structural change, who doesn't actually care about abortion rights. This person is quite comfortable with how things are, as you can see from his response and his demeanor. He's smug, he's a bit arrogant about his position, and he's invented a straw man, which nowhere in my video do I say we should minimize abortion rights. The only parties that are minimizing abortion rights are the ones that have power. Democrats and Republicans alike. That point went clearly over his head. Notice it's everyone else that's got to do the work for him. It's everyone else that's got to go start the third party. Real brave take. His consent has been manufactured. He is defending the status quo. He's defending the political establishment. He's doing exactly what his ruling class leaders want him to do, which is vote blue no matter who. He still believes there's still some moral high ground in voting for the blue guy. Tell me honestly, do you think this is the kind of person that's going to agitate, educate, or help organize a working class movement which improves the socioeconomic conditions of regular people? Or is he going to go to the ballot box once every 4 years and pick the blue guy and congratulate himself for all the work he's doing on social change? I think we all know the real answer to that. The Democrats are captured by corporations, just as the Republicans are. Their rhetoric is different, but as you can see, policies are the same. Doesn't matter what they're saying, look at what is happening. This guy is smugly and arrogantly inventing a straw man to my position when he says, when you go off and start your third party, make sure you don't minimize abortion rights. That'd be a bad idea. The point is, two-party system is minimizing the abortion rights. We already don't have abortion rights, and that is under Democratic leadership. And they've had 50 years to enshrine it into law, and they didn't do it. And that's the point. And this person defending that is ensuring that more rights will be taken away in the future and will slide further and further into fascism. It's funny that this person thinks that they have some sort of moral high ground that they're posturing from. Liberals not inventing straw men to defend their reactionary position challenge impossible. Also, notice how he uncritically casts off the entire point of my video. He doesn't bother to go into the actual things that I was saying. Right? He just harps on this one straw man that he invented and makes a video on that. I encourage all of my viewers to critically think about this and go back and watch the video with the Venn diagram showing all the identical positions that the Democrats and the Republicans take, which in true liberal form, this guy completely avoids acknowledging. I mean, what exactly is this position? What allows him to feel this sense of superiority because he's defending the Democrats? The Democratic establishment is responsible for the state of American politics right now. This is the obvious liberal response. It doesn't affect me personally, so I am going to be quite comfortable and express contempt for those who are advocating for something which is outside of the corporate duopoly that we have. Notice the disingenuousness of his response and the contempt he has for other working class people trying to advocate for actual change. This shows you that he has a stake in how the system is right now. He doesn't really actually care to change. The work is being left up to others, not him. He can't be bothered with that. Bro, grow an actual spine and use some critical thinking and do some research on your own. Don't be intellectually lazy. Do you think this person actually cares about abortion rights? He's actually proving the diagram true, because it's all performative, it's all rhetoric, but when it comes down to it, it's not going to be him that does the work. And he just admitted it. This person is a shining example of why fascism is on the rise in America. Because we have such weak, ineffectual opposition to fascism. Fascism requires liberal enablers such as this person, who is going to defend the status quo, who's going to advocate for the blue guy no matter who it is, just because they have nicer rhetoric, and meanwhile we're sliding further. I'm just not that into politics. It's, to be honest, kind of cringe to watch you guys get all bent out of shape about this. Chill out. Being anti-political is a political position. How so? Being uncritical towards the social and economic injustices in our society is simultaneously a tacit endorsement for the system. You are supporting the status quo. You are perpetuating the system, and the system is neoliberalism, and that makes you a neoliberal. Telling people that you are an abovist who's just not that into politics is a position of privilege, and you reveal your ignorance by proudly touting this as if it's a virtue, when in fact it is tantamount to sticking your head in the sand while the world burns. Whoa, bro, why do you gotta be so harsh on me, man? Damn! You cannot explain away or say that you are unaffected by the material conditions of your life and those around you. You are affected, like it or not. You are in a class war. Killing civilians and bombing foreign countries is fine, but I absolutely draw the line at damage to corporate property. Privatization is freedom. Privatization is freedom to exploit. Nah, babe, that's the free market. If its absence could kill you, then it shouldn't be a for-profit industry. That's evil. No, privatization upholds democracy. Privatization undermines democracy. Paywalling public resources deprives people. Depriving people of their basic survival needs so that privatizers can enrich their lives with excess is the very definition of exploitation for personal gain. No, that's the meritocracy, baby. This is what happens when you free market. That's why we have property rights in this country. Properties don't have rights. What you're saying is that certain privileged people have the right to own property. Privatizing property is the only right which is exclusive and not inclusive. My right to own property deprives you of your right to own that property. My right to own a piece of land deprives you of that same right to own that piece of land. We need to be organizing an actual working class party. Our voices are not being heard. We are disenfranchised. We need to seek solutions outside of the political establishment, which is owned by corporations. We need to demand that things change. You're just helping the Republicans. No. You are helping the Republicans by roadblocking an actual working class movement. You are not empowering the working class. You are telling everyone that we should be okay with our weak position. You are helping the ruling class who loves nothing more than our own fragmentation by existing only in the framework that your capitalist overlords say that you can exist in, and by legitimizing it and perpetuating it and spreading the lie that it can work if we just vote for the Democrats is enabling our slide further into fascism. You might as well be blowing a kiss to the capitalist class. There's only one party right now that's supporting genocide, and it's not the Democrats. You are absolutely tone deaf. The only reason that 14 states have passed anti-abortion laws is because the Democrats have allowed it to happen, because they never enshrined it into federal law in the first place. This is yet another example of the ratchet effect. How many times do I need to remind you that Democrats and Republicans are offense and defense for the same team? This is one cohesive strategy to induce compliance from the public. The Democrats are directly culpable for the laws being passed against trans people and abortion. How are you so easily duped? How do you not see what is being laid bare before you? The Democrats Democratic Party is in power right now. Furthermore, the Democratic Party is funding the genocides happening in Yemen and Palestine using our money and our weapons. Not to even mention Ukraine. What is it going to take for you to realize that these two parties are owned by the same people? They represent the same class. They enact the same policies. They have different strategies, different tactics to get the public to believe that a democracy is being fought for. They serve a utilitarian purpose. Republicans push everything to the right, while the Democrats feign impotence, give excuses as to why they can't get anything done, and they block movement back to the left. That is what's happening right now. You know what? I can't hear you anymore, okay? I'm late to brunch. We want all humans to have equal rights. And we want an actual democracy, not a ruling class who hoards all the wealth and resources and exploits us. We want to socialists. Guys, I really think we should hear the fascists out. We want to abolish the capitalist class. We want to enforce capitalism. There must be a middle ground. We want to trans people and ban abortion, and we are going to enact laws that help us do just that. After further consideration, we've decided to allow that to happen, but we are going to be real upset about it. Vote blue, that's right, you tell them, Democrats, slay. The Democrats are just complicit in this. They could have totally stopped this from happening. Those two parties are working together. Oh my God, you sound like such a conservative. The Republicans and the Democrats are offense and defense for the same team. The Democrats are literally running defense for Republicans right now. It's either Democrats or Republicans, so I'm gonna pick Democrats because that is clearly the better choice. But it's not actually doing anything, it's just helping the fascists. Yeah, but I feel better about it, and I go by vibes. Congratulations to me, I did it. How do you in your own mind not realize that the diagram that I showed was calling out the Democratic establishment and its liberal sympathizers, of which you are one, for not doing anything about abortion rights, for only delivering flowery rhetoric and never policy decisions? You are inventing a straw man when you lamely attempt to accuse the left for not caring about abortion rights. We are not the ones in power. The Democratic establishment has been in power and had plenty of time and opportunities to codify Roe v. Wade, of which they never did. And you can look at the historical record and we can go right through it if you'd like. This is happening under the Democratic leadership, and it has been enabled by Democrats for 40 years. If you want to go ahead and excuse the Democrats and apologize on their behalf for all their failures, then by all means, go ahead. But you cannot blame a party that is not in power for the very real consequences, the one that is. You are getting defensive, and this is liberal projection. This is why the diagram that I showed is accurate, because in spite of it all, the Democrats have only ever delivered some nice words about abortion rights, but they have quietly in the background stripped us, and here you are defending the 40-year legacy of neoliberalism and its descent into fascism. This is how you'll be remembered, as defenders of the reactionary status quo. You defending the Democrats is not the moral high ground that you think it is, okay, pal? Especially in 2023, when you have absolutely no excuse of not being aware of the simple fact that both Democrats and Republicans are bought and sold by corporations. They serve corporate interests. This has been scientifically proven. There's plenty of data and evidence that explains this, which you should look into. We know that 90% of the public has been literally disenfranchised from government policy. Senators vote for the interests of corporations. Corporations and its class of private owners and managers and bankers and chief executives have an invested interest in undermining human rights and restricting freedom within the public domain. This is basic logic. How do you in your own mind not recognize that the corporate duopoly requires a soft, liberal, apologist opposition party to steamroll? The liberal party's main function is to feign moral opposition, to induce your compliance, to give the public the misimpression that democracy is being fought for and argued over, and that their vote counts, when in actuality the public is virtually disenfranchised by its government. In the background, they quietly strip our rights and lower our standards of living. This is indefensible. And yet you still sit there and so arrogantly defend and excuse and explain away the failures of the Democratic Party, while they take away our rights. The Democratic and Republican Party are one cohesive, homogeneous, gelatinous whole that serves one function: consolidate wealth and power into the hands of the corporate ruling class and undermine the livelihood of everyone else. You are not taking the moral high ground by making excuses for the failures of the Democratic Party. How do you not realize that playing the role of the enlightened centrist is simultaneously playing the role of a pawn in a society in which the political establishment has been captured completely by corporate fascists? How are you so blissfully unaware of the past 40 years of American history in which you've seen the political establishment veer to the right to where we're now at hard far-right fascism, and you mistake Joe Biden and the Democratic establishment as part of the left? You are the mark. Legitimizing the political establishment is not harm reduction. It's harm enabling, and it's exactly what the ruling class wants from you. Furthermore, your position isn't even validated by the historical record. Human rights have never been a gift from above. We've never voted on human rights. They've been struggled over and fought for outside of the political establishment. And we can point to virtually every historical example there is in which human rights have been achieved. This is basic logic. The political establishment, those in power, are not going to give you the mechanism by which to take their power away. I think you have your terms mixed up, okay? I'm a leftist, but I still support capitalism. The left begins at anti-capitalism. God, you see, this is what I don't like. You people on the extreme left start to sound like fascists. Not holding any space for fascists or fascism is not the same as fascism. It's the direct opposite of fascism. Horseshoe theory. That's literally not a thing. Once again, it's not capitalism's fault. It's the 3 C's. Corruption, crony, corporatism. That is capitalist apologia. And that's why your title of liberal is well-deserved. Capitalism is the consolidation of private power. It will always tend towards monopolies. It is a system designed on the principle of greed and exploitation. There is no justification for capitalism, and if the public does not organize against it, very soon it will spell the end of organized human life. Organize? Are you saying we shouldn't vote? I'm saying that being political on one day out of 365 days, where you go to the ballot box and cast your vote for the red or the blue guy, is not engaging in politics in any meaningful sense. Things will not fundamentally change simply by using the mechanisms of the political establishment. If voting changed anything structurally, they would make it illegal. That's not what I was told. All we need to do is vote. Human rights are not a gift from above. The liberation of the working class must be done by the working class. No, we can vote harder. The ruling class is waging war against us. Yeah? Okay, well, let's fight back. All people deserve to live with dignity. I don't know. Sounds expensive. We should not tolerate fascists. Oof, I don't know. You kind of sound like a fascist. Can't we just tolerate like a little bit? We should not be funding the genocides of Yemen and Palestine. I mean, maybe just for like a little bit longer? All cops are bastards. Well, you never met my Uncle Jim. He's the best. All landlords are parasites. Speak for yourself. My landlord is a saint. I even tip. Capitalism is unsustainable and must be abolished. No, silly. We just need to reform it. It works if you work it. Being neutral to fascism is the same as siding with fascism. Let's take a look at the historical record. I only do and say what feels good and doesn't inconvenience me too much. Everything is class war. But in capitalism, there are 2 classes: owners and workers, or the exploiters and the exploited. No, there's upper class, there's middle upper class, there's middle class, there's lower middle class, there's lower class, there's upper lower class, there's little This is why I don't trust the liberals, because as they grandstand like they're morally superior because of their impotence, they are sustaining and maintaining and supporting the status quo. They are siding with fascism. Newsflash! Being an enlightened centrist is not taking the high road. It is not being morally virtuous. You are enabling fascism. You are supporting the current dynamic of the oppressed and oppressor. It's like watching a grizzly bear eat a bunch of kittens and blaming the kittens because they're trying to overcome the grizzly bear. What do they think is going to happen? They're going to wish for change and it'll magically appear? Of course we leftists want to be in charge. Leftists are working class members of society. We want to be able to enact government policies which benefit the working class, just like you. We don't want corporate-sponsored ruling class, elite members of society who are geriatric dinosaurs who are about to croak, enacting policies which affect us. Of course we want to be in charge. These decisions don't just magically go away. You're absolutely right. We leftists want to be in charge. We want a government that reflects working class policies, not ruling class policies, and the policies that benefit the 1%. We leftists are working class members. We want the working class to be in charge. We want the working class to enact policies that benefit the working class. Thus, we want to be in charge. How do liberals not understand fundamentally that if you want change, you have to take control of the mechanisms of government and the institutions which dominate public life? So, yes, we want the working class to be in charge of society. And if that makes ruling class elites fearful that they're going to lose their power, then so be it. This is exactly why I don't trust liberals, because as one side, which is a minority of the population, literally a fraction of 1% of the population, has monopolized state violence, has enacted fascist policies against the public, is dominating public life, is assaulting the working class with economic violence and undermining our livelihood on a daily basis. Yet you still have liberals in the working class who are more fearful of the working class taking power. This is liberal projection. This person does not want change, doesn't have the stomach for actual, real, visceral, fundamental change. This person is pearl clutching at the thought of change actually happening. It's okay when Mitch McConnell signs off on legislation which ultimately ends up killing poor people. It's okay when he funds the genocides of the Yemenis and Palestinians. But for us to take even a sense of relief at the prospect of his death is barbaric. If this were the 1830s, he would be admonishing slaves for revolting against their masters. He would be admonishing slaves for taking even a shred of delight in the demise of their owners. This is what's known as gaslighting victims of economic violence and social murder. You're not a Democrat because you're on the same side as Republicans. I'm not a Democrat because Democrats are on the same side as Republicans. Horseshoe theory. Fishhook theory. I'm a centrist. You're a pawn. It is utopian to believe that socialism works. It is dystopian to believe that capitalism works. But it does. For who? For me. You don't own any capital. That's not true. I own a home. That's personal property, not the means of production. I own a small business too, which is owned by a central bank. Capital is whatever I say it is. That's not how this works. Capitalism is better than socialism. Capitalism is socialism for the rich. Capitalism innovates. Capitalism innovates new ways to extract the surplus value created by labor. That's nonsense. Look at all the wonderful advancements in technology. Capitalism innovated that. Labor innovated that. That's how it's always been. Capitalism is just a free market. Capitalism is the privatization of public resources concurrent with the exploitation of labor. You might make some good points, but you are a white cisgendered male, and your position on voting is privileged. Correction, your vote blue no matter who position is a position of privilege. Marginalized people are being legislated against right now, and that's because of Republicans, not Democrats. The genocide of Yemenis and Palestinians are being funded right now by the Democratic Party. Well, I can't change that. So you admit it's a privilege to not have to factor that in when you vote Democrat? No, but I'm talking about trans people and abortion rights. It is a position of privilege to support and advocate for the policies of the Democratic Party to begin with. Joe Biden is a terrorist. He blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, which is a war crime. Furthermore, the Ukrainians and the Russians had a preliminary 15-point ceasefire agreement in April of 22, but it was stonewalled by Joe Biden and Boris Johnson, all because they wanted to continue the war and continue making money, which is another war crime. If your eternal rule of voting blue no matter who led you here to a time where fascists are consolidating their power, writing laws against abortion and trans people, all while the Democratic establishment has gained control over the government, then of what use was the rule? We should have a system that upholds actual democracy, a government that benefits the public. I don't care what you say, okay? Your socialist utopia will have suppression. Yeah, no, definitely. What? There will be suppression. The suppression of the current 1%. They are definitely going to be upset and afraid and not happy about what we're trying to do. But it'll turn into a dictatorship of the proletariat. But that's authoritarian. Dictatorship of the proletariat is just a based way of saying actual democracy. It's having the majority rule the government rather than the minority of the 1%. We already are living in an authoritarian dictatorship. It's a dictatorship of the 1%. Corporate autocracy. We want to switch that. We want a government governed by the 99%. But that is tyranny. Tyranny against the wealth-hoarding class. Yes, for sure, definitely. But you're not factoring in human nature. Greed. The system we have now incentivizes greed. Yeah, maybe. So we disincentivize it. We make it illegal. And every sociopath who hoards billions of dollars gets the wall. No, what I'm saying is that in every system there will be greed. You will become the thing that you hate. That is human nature. You right now are mistaking capitalism for human nature. Capitalism rewards and encourages greed and sociopathy. This is a silly argument to make. If you went to the circus and saw an elephant riding a bike, yeah, elephant riding a bike in a circus, it's not its nature, I get it. It's human nature to be cooperative, collaborative, altruistic, socially useful. We are social creatures. We depend on each other. It's how we've lasted this far. Well, we've also done a lot of bad shit, and that's always been part of our history. Well, for the past 400 years, we've lived in a global system of imperial capitalism. It is a socio-political economic system built on war and poverty. And just as one system can be built on a certain foundation with certain principles guiding it, then so can another system be built in another way with different guiding principles and a different foundation. Human history is not over. There's always been social progress and social regress. This is part of it. Unless you think human history is over, then it's no argument to say that it hasn't been done before. If something can be built, it can fail. Every institution constructed by humans has born, evolved, and died. There is no reason to think that capitalism is excluded from this trend. In the past, people have struggled for human rights under far worse conditions than what we face today, and yet they prevailed. We have no right to complain or say it can't be done. We must continue on.
Nixon ordered Cambodian genocide. Clinton sent cruise missiles to Sudan, people died. Obama gave the orders to do drone strikes.